Hi everybody, welcome. I'm your host, Binary Mouse, and we have another truly fantastic story to share with you. Our special guest storyteller will carry us beyond the edge of our imaginations into a digital fantasy land built especially for you. Watch, listen, and enjoy!
Annyeonghaseyo. Welcome to some more Korean tales. Let's start with a favorite story that comes from Korean history. The story of Princess Pyongyang and Ondal. Long ago in the old kingdom of Kogoryo, there was a princess known for her tears. As a baby, she cried and cried, and people tried to help her. When she grew a little older, she still cried and cried, and people tried to be patient. But when she grew yet older and still wept, the sound became a nuisance. As the tears of Princess Pyongyang echoed through palace halls, her mother, the queen, tried to calm her, but could not. Her father, the king, grew daily more annoyed. "Stop!" he ordered at last, but she did not. "Stop right now!" he commanded. But the tears still fell. Finally, in a great anger, he shouted, "If you do not stop weeping, you will marry Ondal the fool." Now this was a threat indeed. For Ondal was a beggar. He was ugly. He roamed the streets in rags, selling wood and hunting scraps to feed his blind mother. He was so foolish, people said, that when children teased him, he didn't even fight back. He just smiled and walked on. Yet even though the king threatened time and again to marry his daughter to this fool, her tears kept flowing. And then at last, her years outgrew her tears. The princess blossomed into a thoughtful and lovely young woman, as sweet as a melon, as pretty as a peach. Her parents proudly searched the kingdom for the best bridegroom. Soon, with a smile, her father told her, "We have found a fine husband for you, from a good family. He is a skilled horseman and a learned scholar." "But father," said the princess, looking confused, "you long ago decided who I would marry." I did no such thing, said the king. Yes, father. You told me many times that my husband would be Ondal the fool, the princess replied. You silly girl, said the king. I spoke only to stop your tears. A princess can never marry a beggar. But a king can never take back his words, she said. If I do not marry Ondal, people will call you a liar. Stop! Stop this nonsense, thundered the king. But his daughter quietly insisted until he could listen no more. In a rage, he sent her away, shouting, Leave then! Go marry your fool! While her mother wept, the princess gathered her jewels and left the palace. As the sun set, her footsteps led her first to the old shack where Ondal and his mother lived, and then on to a hill where he still gathered twigs. In the dark, the princess walked toward him, her silk gown sweeping the earth, her wide sleeves like dragonfly wings, her eyes glowing pearl-like. Ondal was surprised and scared. Who are you? He asked. I am a princess come to marry you. Oh, no, he cried. No noble woman would come here alone at night. You are a ghost, a spirit. Go away, go. And terrified, he raced back to his hut and shut his door tight against this evil of the night. The princess followed and sat waiting outside. At dawn, he opened the door slowly and found her huddled there. Who are you? He asked again, and she told him. Oh, please forgive me, he said, but now you must go. You cannot stay here in my poor home. I must and I will, she insisted. Thus, soon after, the two bowed thrice to each other, and with the simplest of ceremonies, the princess married the beggar. From that day on, she lived in the hut helping. Her soft fingers now stitched rough cloth. Her royal tongue tasted only scraps of food. And she saw in her husband not an ugly fool, but a man with kind eyes, a good heart, and a clear mind. So one day, with her jewels, she bought a horse, a sword, a bow, and several books printed from rare woodblocks. These she gave to Ondal, saying, My husband, you can do great things, but you must begin to study. You are starting later than the others, so you must work even harder, and I will help. Thus, day after day, under the sun, he rode swiftly upon his horse, perfecting the skills of a warrior. And night after night, under a pine oil light, he slowly learned to read. He worked hard. It was often very difficult. He grew discouraged, but the princess urged him on. She inspired him when he was ready to give up. After many, many months of effort, she gazed with pride upon her husband, now a brave warrior and a man of learning. Then one night she said, The great hunt at Nong Nong comes soon, on the 3rd day of the 3rd moon. You must go hunt with the warriors of Goguryeo, then offer wild boar and deer to the mountains, the rivers there. And so he went, hunting with such courage and skill that the king himself watched, most impressed. And in the twilight, he bowed before the king, who praised him and asked his name. Ondal, sir. The fool? Said the king, and was well pleased to know how clever his daughter had been. There was a great reunion at the palace, and Ondal became a general ready to defend his land. Many times he led his soldiers as they charged, like angry waves against those who invaded Goguryeo. And due to his great success in battle, he was promoted higher and higher, and then to one of the highest palace ranks. Now, as a much-honored officer, he offered to go and reclaim land north of the Han River, which had been seized by neighboring Shilla Kingdom. The king gave his blessing, the princess gave her love, and the general set out. At Achasong, a fort near present-day Seoul, he fought bravely, like a tiger, inspiring all. But he was only human. and an arrow suddenly pierced his chest. He fell from his horse, his blood fell on the ground. He called faintly for the princess and died, they say, with her name upon his lips. Then his body was placed sadly in a coffin to be taken to the capital. But when the soldiers tried to lift it, the coffin stayed as if rooted. The strongest men strained and struggled, but it did not move. So the princess was told, and she came swiftly. She threw herself on the coffin and wept greater tears than ever she had as a child. "Come, come, my brave and beloved husband," she cried. "Come home and rest. Truly, you have earned the peace you now shall have." At once, the coffin seemed lighter, and it was buried then with great ceremony and respect. From that day on, this true tale of Ondal and the princess has been told and retold, for it proves that love can reach across great differences, and that wisdom and courage can flourish in huts as well as in royal halls.
Join in any reindeer gang. Then one foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to stay.
Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight?
And how the reindeer loved him as they shouted out with glee. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, you'll go down in history.